What happens when your closest family member betrays you in the worst way possible? What if the people who are supposed to have your back are the ones who let you down the most? Mia had always thought she could count on her family. Growing up, Sunday dinners were a ritual, something sacred. Her parents had a way of making everyone feel important, of keeping the family bond tight. The laughter around the dinner table was always genuine, the kind of laughter that echoed through the walls and filled the house with warmth. And yet, tonight, everything felt different. It was supposed to be just another family gathering, a typical weekend dinner at her parents' house. Mia had been looking forward to it all week. She'd been so caught up in her work lately that she barely had time to breathe, and now here she was, looking forward to a relaxing evening with her loved ones. She'd even brought a bottle of wine her friend Rachel recommended. Something she thought would lighten the mood and add to the atmosphere. She never imagined this evening would turn into one of the worst nights of her life. The table was set, the smell of roasted chicken and mashed potatoes wafting through the air. Her parents were already at the table, chatting with her brother, Jason. Mia smiled as she entered, slipping into the empty seat next to her sister, Amanda, who was already talking to their mother. It felt like everything was falling into place. This should have been an easy evening, but it wasn't. Mia noticed something odd in the air. Amanda seemed tense, her jaw tight, eyes flicking around the room as if looking for something or someone to pick a fight with. Mia tried to brush it off, hoping it was just her imagination. "So, Mia," Amanda started casually, but there was something sharp in her tone, something that didn't belong. "How's the job search going? Still trying to make it big in the big city?" Mia raised an eyebrow. Was that a jab? Her sister had always been a little competitive, but she didn't think it would ever come to this. Still, Mia laughed it off, brushing her sister's comment aside. "It's going well. You know, just taking things one step at a time. It's been tough, but I'm getting there." But instead of moving on, Amanda continued. "One step at a time? That's funny, because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're taking a lot of steps backward. I don't get why you don't just get a real job, something stable, instead of chasing after some pipe dream." Mia blinked, the words hitting her harder than she expected. The atmosphere in the room suddenly felt colder, and Mia could feel the weight of her family's gaze. Jason stopped talking. Their mother and father fell silent. It was as if Amanda's words had echoed louder than they ever should have, and Mia's heart raced. Was this really happening? "Seriously, Amanda?" Mia's voice wavered, but she wasn't sure if it was from shock or from the knot tightening in her stomach. "I thought we were past this. I'm doing what I love. I don't expect everyone to understand, but I don't need you to mock me for it." Her sister's eyes narrowed, and there it was, the judgment Mia had felt for months, but never truly acknowledged. "Mock you? I'm just trying to be realistic. You think you can just wander around and call it following your dreams? It's not like that, Mia. You'll never get anywhere unless you get your head out of the clouds." Mia felt a surge of anger bubbling up inside her. The nerve of her sister, telling her she would never succeed, that her dreams were worthless. Amanda had never been supportive of her career choices, but this was cruel. Their parents stayed quiet, looking down at their plates, pretending they didn't hear the exchange. Mia's father adjusted his glasses, and her mother pretended to study the napkin in her lap. No one came to her defense. No one said anything to Amanda, and that realization hit Mia harder than anything. She was alone in this battle, and no one seemed to care. The words started coming faster now, and Amanda's voice grew louder, almost mocking. "Why don't you just admit it, Mia? You're not going anywhere. You'll end up just like all those other people who never really make it. Maybe it's time to face the facts, huh?" Mia couldn't sit there anymore. Her breath was coming faster now, her heart pounding in her chest. She stood up abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor, causing everyone to look up. She grabbed her bag, flinging it over her shoulder, and turned toward the door without another word. "Where are you going?" her mother called after her, but Mia didn't stop. "Ouch," she said, her voice barely audible as she pushed open the door and stepped into the cold night air. Mia felt like she was suffocating. The shock and betrayal were too much to handle. How could her sister, of all people, say something like that? How could her family just sit there and let it happen? A mix of confusion, anger, and sadness boiled in her chest as she walked briskly down the driveway, not knowing where she was going. She needed space, distance, anything to clear her head. She didn't even realize how far she had walked until she found herself standing in front of her car, her breath coming in shallow bursts. The cool night air hit her face, but it wasn't enough to clear the fog in her mind. Her fingers fumbled for her phone in her bag, and when she finally found it, she saw the screen light up with 23 missed calls. Her heart sank. She didn't know who had called, but she knew it didn't matter. She couldn't face any of them right now. Not after what had just happened. The anger, the hurt, it was all too much to process. She wasn't sure what to do, where to go, or if she even wanted to go back inside. Mia hit the power button on her phone, watching as the screen went dark. She shoved it back into her bag, the weight of the missed calls pressing on her chest. Did I make the right choice walking out? Or did I just ruin everything? The question lingered in her mind, unanswered. She stood there for a few more moments, staring at the empty street, not knowing what came next. Would she go back to her family, apologize, and pretend everything was fine? Or would this be the breaking point, the moment she realized her family wasn't what she thought it was? For now, Mia couldn't answer that. All she knew was that walking out had been the only thing she could do. But whether or not it was the right thing, she didn't know. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Mia sat in her car, parked by the side of the road, staring out at the night. Her hands rested on the steering wheel, gripping it so tightly her knuckles were white. The wind outside rattled the leaves in the trees, but it barely registered in her mind. She was numb. All she could think about was the dinner table, Amanda's cruel words, and the complete absence of support from her family. The weight of the night was like a thick fog clouding her thoughts. But as she sat there, the silence around her allowed her mind to drift. She thought back to the time when things had been different, when her family had felt like her safe place, a place where she could always turn for love and comfort. Growing up, Mia had been close with her family. She was the youngest of 3, with Jason, her older brother, always looking out for her. Mia had always felt like the baby of the family, but in a way, that suited her just fine. She was never the troublemaker like Jason, who had spent his teenage years in and out of trouble. Nor was she as headstrong as Amanda, who had always taken charge, commanding attention wherever she went. Mia was content in the middle, quietly finding her way, listening, observing, and trying to keep the peace. It wasn't that Mia didn't have dreams, she did, big ones. She always wanted to make something of herself, something that was uniquely hers. But she'd never been as bold as Amanda, who had made her career choices with the force of a hurricane. Amanda's dreams were always loud, confident, and ambitious. Mia's were quieter, more reserved, but equally important to her. She had chosen a creative path, wanting to work in design, something that made her feel alive and fulfilled. But she never felt the need to boast about it, never needed validation from anyone else. Her parents had always been supportive, at least, that's what Mia had thought. They'd encouraged her to follow her passion, to take chances. But as the years went by, Mia began to feel the subtle shift. Her career choice didn't seem to satisfy her family's expectations, not in the way Amanda's career did. Amanda had always been the golden child, the one who excelled academically and socially, the one everyone looked up to. She had a high-powered job in finance, and it was clear from the way their parents talked about her that she was the shining star of the family. Mia, on the other hand, wasn't quite as flashy. Her work wasn't about numbers or prestige, it was about creativity, and for a while, she had been okay with that. But tonight, Amanda's words had cut deeper than she'd expected. There had always been a quiet tension between them, even when they were little. Amanda had always been the one who needed to be in control, the one who demanded attention. Mia, in contrast, had been the quiet observer, the peacemaker, often the one who would settle arguments between her siblings. While she admired her sister's ambition, she couldn't help but feel overshadowed by her. It wasn't that Mia didn't have ambition, she did, but it had always felt more personal, more introspective. Her creativity, her love for design, was something she kept close to her chest, something that didn't demand the spotlight. As the years went by, the rivalry between the sisters deepened. Amanda's successes became more frequent, more public. Mia's, on the other hand, seemed small in comparison. When Mia landed a small job designing marketing materials for a local business, she was proud of it, but her parents barely acknowledged it. They were too busy praising Amanda for securing a major promotion at her finance firm. Mia had always felt like she was just a little too far from the mark, a little too unnoticed. And yet, she had continued trying. She kept working, kept learning, even when her parents didn't seem to understand her chosen path. She had spent years doubting her worth, questioning whether her dreams were too small, too insignificant for anyone to appreciate. But she kept going, because, deep down, she knew she couldn't be anyone other than who she was. Mia pulled her phone out of her bag and glanced at the screen. There were a few texts, mostly from Rachel, her best friend since college. Rachel was one of the few people who had ever really understood Mia. She didn't care about Mia's career choices or whether they were successful by other people's standards. Rachel had always been there, whether Mia was celebrating a small victory or facing yet another rejection. Rachel's message read, "Hey, I know tonight's dinner didn't go as planned. Just wanted you to know I'm here if you need to talk. I get it. Take care of yourself, okay?" Mia felt a wave of gratitude toward Rachel. She didn't need to explain anything to Rachel. Her friend always understood, always knew what to say. But right now, there was nothing to say. Mia was still reeling from the dinner, from Amanda's cruel words, from the realization that her family had never really seen her for who she was, only for who they wanted her to be. The phone buzzed again. It was another message from Rachel. "Also, I think you might need a drink or two. When you're ready, I'm down for a girls' night out. We can forget about the family drama and just have fun. You deserve it." Mia smiled, but it was short-lived. She couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted permanently in her relationship with her family. It wasn't just Amanda's outburst. It was the silence that had followed. The lack of support. The feeling that, no matter what she did, she would never be enough in their eyes. She could still hear Amanda's voice in her head, taunting her, telling her she was chasing a pipe dream. Mia couldn't understand why her sister had said it, why she had been so relentless. What had Mia ever done to deserve that? But the more Mia thought about it, the more she realized that this had been building for years. The jealousy, the competitiveness, the pressure to be perfect, everything had been stacking up in Amanda's mind, and tonight, it all spilled over. Mia closed her eyes, letting the memories wash over her. She remembered the days when she and Amanda had been closer, when they'd shared secrets and laughed until their sides hurt. But somewhere along the way, something had changed. Maybe it was Amanda's success, or maybe it was Mia's quiet resignation to the sidelines. Whatever it was, it had built a wall between them, a wall that was impossible to tear down now. Mia didn't know what the future held, or if she would ever be able to repair the rift with her family. But she knew one thing for sure. Something had broken tonight. And no matter how hard she tried to ignore it, she couldn't pretend everything was fine anymore. As she started the car and drove off into the night, Mia realized that she had reached a crossroads. She didn't know which direction to go, but she knew she couldn't stay on this path. Something had to change. The drive had felt endless. Mia hadn't realized how far she'd gone until the buildings around her began to feel unfamiliar. Her mind was still racing, trying to process the events of the night. How had it all gone so wrong so quickly? She tried to calm herself, focusing on the road ahead. But every time she thought about Amanda's cruel words, a new wave of anger and frustration washed over her. She ended up driving through the outskirts of town, her car gliding along the empty streets as her thoughts spiraled out of control. Her grip tightened on the wheel. The city lights blurred past her, reflecting off the rain-soaked pavement. She didn't know where she was going, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't care. It wasn't the destination that mattered, it was the escape. After a while, Mia pulled over in front of a quiet park. The familiar park where she used to come to clear her head. She sat there for a few minutes, staring at the trees swaying gently in the wind, the only sound the soft rustling of leaves. It was calming in a way, but the thoughts wouldn't leave her. The hurt, the disappointment, it was all still there, gnawing at her insides. Her phone buzzed again, this time with a message from her mother. "Mia, please call when you get this. We need to talk." Mia hesitated before turning the phone screen face down. Talk? What was there to talk about? Her mother, the one person who had always been there for her, had been quiet during the dinner, as if she were avoiding confrontation. Mia had never expected her to take sides, but the silence had stung more than she realized. She needed space to think. Not more conversations that would just make things worse. Before Mia could make a decision about calling back, her phone rang again. This time it was Jason, her older brother. He didn't call often, but when he did, it usually meant something important. She picked up after the second ring. "Jason," she said, her voice sounding rougher than she expected. "What's up?" "Hey, I've been trying to reach you," he replied, his voice tinged with concern. "Are you okay? Mom said you left, and no one's heard from you since." Mia swallowed hard. "I'm fine. Just needed to get away for a bit." There was a pause on the other end, and then Jason sighed. "Mia, I'm not going to lie, what happened tonight wasn't right. Amanda can be a lot, but you know she didn't mean to hurt you." Mia scoffed, her frustration boiling over. "Really? Because it sure didn't feel like that. She's been making jabs at me for years, Jason. Tonight was just the tipping point. I can't keep pretending it doesn't bother me." Jason was quiet for a moment. "I get it. I do. But you've got to understand she's not doing it to hurt you. She's dealing with her own stuff. She doesn't know how to express it." Mia clenched her jaw. She's dealing with her own stuff? That didn't make what Amanda had said any less painful. So what? That makes it okay to tear me down every chance she gets. "I'm not saying it's okay, Mia," Jason said, his voice softening. "But you've got to be the bigger person here. You know Amanda, she's always been like this. She doesn't know how to let people in, how to be vulnerable. That's why she lashes out." Mia shook her head, feeling a surge of frustration. "It's not just Amanda, Jason. It's everyone. Mom and Dad didn't say a word. They just let her go on like that, and it was like I wasn't even there. I feel invisible, like none of them even care about what I'm doing." Jason's tone shifted, more serious now. "Mia, they do care. They're not as expressive as you think. You're right that they should have said something, but sometimes they just don't know how. They don't want to make things worse." Mia felt her chest tighten. Did they care? Or had she been fooling herself all along? It wasn't the first time she had questioned her family's support, but it had never felt so blatant before. The silence at the dinner table had spoken louder than anything. "I don't know, Jason. I can't keep pretending everything's fine. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of being the one who tries to make peace when no one else does." There was another long pause. Jason sighed, then spoke again, his voice full of understanding. "I get it, Mia. But running away from it all won't fix anything. I know it's hard, but you need to go back. Talk to them. Not just Amanda, but everyone. Have the conversation. It's the only way this is going to get better. Mia's heart sank. She didn't want to go back. She didn't want to face her family, to sit down at that dinner table and pretend everything was okay. But Jason was right. If she ran now, she'd never be able to fix what was broken. She couldn't just walk away from her family forever. I'll think about it, Mia said finally, her voice small. But right now, I just need some time. Take all the time you need, Jason replied. But just know, we're all here for you. Even if we don't always show it the way you want us to. The conversation ended, but Mia couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. It wasn't just the fight with Amanda or her parents' silence. It was the realization that maybe her family wasn't what she had always believed it to be. They weren't perfect. They had flaws, just like everyone else. And perhaps the expectations she had for them, for her relationship with them, had been too high all along. Still, Mia wasn't ready to give up on them. Not yet. But she wasn't sure how to move forward. How could she rebuild trust with people who had never truly understood her? And how could she trust herself when the one person she thought she could always count on, her sister, had betrayed her so completely? As she sat there in the car, the night stretching out before her, Mia knew that something had to change. But whether it was her family, her career, or herself, she wasn't sure yet. The only thing she knew was that this moment was a turning point. And she had to decide where to go from here. Mia sat in the park for what felt like hours, lost in thought. The sound of crickets chirping filled the night air, and the faint glow of the streetlights cast long shadows across the empty playground. But the silence was unbearable. Every time she closed her eyes, all she could hear was Amanda's voice, the biting tone, the harsh words that had cut her so deeply. You'll never be successful. This isn't a real career. Why don't you just grow up and face reality? The words echoed in her head, and the weight of them felt unbearable. How had things gotten this bad? Was it really just one outburst that had destroyed everything? Or had it been building for years, like the cracks in a dam finally giving way? The longer Mia sat there, the more she realized how much of this pain she had been holding onto for so long. She had tried to ignore it, tried to put on a brave face and pretend everything was fine. But now, as the anger and hurt resurfaced, she couldn't hide from the truth anymore. Amanda's words had been the final straw, but the foundation of their fractured relationship had been laid years ago. Mia stood up and stretched her stiff legs, walking slowly toward the swing set. She didn't know what she was looking for, peace, maybe, or clarity. But as she sat down on the swing, the familiar motion of pushing herself back and forth helped to clear her mind, if only for a moment. The phone in her pocket buzzed, snapping her out of her reverie. She pulled it out, already bracing herself for another text from her mother or another call from Jason, both of whom were relentless in trying to fix the situation. But this time, the number on the screen made her freeze. It was Rachel. Mia hadn't talked to Rachel in a few days. Her friend had been trying to get her to open up about the dinner, but Mia had been avoiding it. She wasn't sure if she was ready to tell Rachel what had happened. But she couldn't ignore the call. Not now. She slid her finger across the screen and brought the phone to her ear. Hey, Mia. You good? Rachel's voice was steady, but Mia could hear the concern behind it. Mia took a deep breath. Honestly, Rachel? No. I'm not good. There was a pause. I figured. Did you want to talk about it? Mia exhaled slowly. She had wanted to avoid talking about it, but she knew Rachel wasn't going to let her off the hook. And deep down, Mia wanted someone to understand. I don't even know where to start, Mia said, her voice faltering. Amanda, she just tore into me tonight. It was like all of my worst fears came true. She told me my career wasn't real. She said I wasn't doing anything with my life. And then my parents, they just sat there and let it happen. That sounds brutal, Rachel said softly. But Mia, you know Amanda. She's always been like that. She's competitive. And she doesn't get you. She doesn't understand what drives you. I'm not saying it's right, but you can't let her words control your worth. Mia rubbed her eyes, the familiar sting of tears threatening to fall. I know, but it just hurts. I've spent so much time trying to make them proud, trying to show them that what I do matters, and yet, it's never enough. I'm tired, Rachel. Tired of fighting for a place at the table that no one seems to want to give me. Rachel paused for a moment, letting the silence sit between them. Mia, you don't need their approval to know your worth. You've built something incredible. You've worked hard for what you have, and that matters. And I know you're not the kind of person who needs to have her name in lights, but that doesn't mean your dreams aren't important. Your journey is yours, and you don't need to justify it to anyone, least of all Amanda. The words were comforting, but they didn't erase the pain. Mia let out a shaky breath. But what if they're right? What if I'm just chasing something that's not real? What if I've been wasting my time? Mia, listen to me. Rachel's voice was firm, yet gentle. You're not wasting your time. You're doing something that makes you happy, that fulfills you. And that's more than most people ever have. Success isn't just about money or fame. It's about finding what truly makes you feel alive. And you found that. I know you have. You're creating, you're designing, you're making things that are real and beautiful. Don't let anyone take that from you. Not Amanda, not anyone. Mia felt a wave of emotion rise in her chest, but this time, it wasn't anger. It was something softer. Something that felt like release. She was tired of fighting this battle alone. She needed to hear Rachel's words, needed to be reminded of why she was doing this in the first place. You're right, Mia said quietly, feeling a sense of clarity begin to wash over her. I just wish they could see that. They might never see it, Rachel said. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that you see it. You know what you're worth, Mia. And one day, when you look back on this, you'll see that all of this was part of your journey. It's shaping you into who you're meant to be. Mia sat in the swing, her phone pressed to her ear, letting Rachel's words sink in. For the first time that night, she felt something shift. A spark of hope. Maybe things wouldn't ever be perfect with her family. Maybe the wounds were too deep. But she didn't have to stay stuck in the past. She didn't have to keep clinging to the idea of a family that accepted her for who she was. She could forge her own path. Mia stood up from the swing, the weight of the world still heavy on her shoulders, but somehow lighter. She knew she had a long way to go. There would be more difficult conversations ahead. More tension. But for the first time, she wasn't afraid. She was ready to face whatever came next. Ready to make peace with herself, no matter what her family thought. Thanks, Rachel, Mia said softly, her voice filled with gratitude. You've helped more than you know. I'm always here for you, Rachel replied. Always. Mia ended the call and stood there for a moment, staring out into the park. The night felt different now, quieter. More peaceful. She didn't have all the answers, and she didn't know what would happen when she went back to her family. But one thing was clear, Mia wasn't going to keep running. She was going to face it all head-on. And whatever happened next, she would be ready. The sun was setting when Mia finally decided it was time to head back. She'd spent hours reflecting, talking to Rachel, and letting the clarity from their conversation sink in. Now, as the evening sky painted the world in shades of purple and orange, she knew that there was no escaping the inevitable. She had to go back. Her car idled in front of her family's house, the familiar driveway stretching out before her like an old, painful memory. The house seemed almost too quiet, as if the air itself had been holding its breath in anticipation of what was to come. Mia sat there for a moment, her hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. Her heart raced. She wasn't sure if she was more afraid of facing her family or of finally facing the truth she had been running from for so long. She took a deep breath and stepped out of the car, feeling the cool evening breeze on her face. The front door of the house opened just as she was about to reach the porch, and there stood her mother, her face a mixture of relief and uncertainty. Mia, her mother said, her voice soft but laden with emotion. "You're back." Mia's mother stepped toward her, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken words. Mia could see the concern in her mother's eyes, but she also saw something else, the weight of the past few years, the silent expectations, the misunderstandings that had piled up between them. Mia swallowed hard and finally found her voice. "I'm here," she said quietly. "But I can't just ignore what happened, Mom." "Not anymore." Her mother's expression shifted, and she reached out, gently taking Mia's hand. "I know, sweetheart. I know." Mia pulled her hand back, not wanting to be comforted just yet. She needed answers, not sympathy. "How could you just sit there?" she asked, her voice trembling. "How could you let Amanda say those things to me, in front of everyone? You didn't say a word. I've spent my whole life trying to make you proud, and tonight it felt like it didn't matter." Her mother looked down, as if she were searching for the right words. "Mia, it's not that we didn't care. It's just—" "Then what is it?" Mia interrupted, her frustration bubbling to the surface. "What is it that makes you so silent? Do you really think I'm not good enough? That my career isn't valid? That everything I've worked for means nothing?" The tears that Mia had been holding back finally started to fall, her voice shaky as she continued. "I've been fighting my whole life to feel like I belong here, and every time I think I'm getting through to you, it feels like you pull away." Her mother reached for her again, but Mia stepped back. "No, Mom. I need to know. I need to understand why this keeps happening." The pain in her mother's eyes was clear. "I'm sorry, Mia," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I've failed you. I thought that if I stayed quiet, it would keep the peace. I thought if I didn't make waves, things would just stay calm. But I see now how much I hurt you by doing that." Mia's breath hitched in her chest. "I don't want peace, Mom. I want honesty. I want to feel like you see me for who I am, not just who you want me to be." Her mother's eyes filled with tears. "I do see you, Mia. I see you trying, working so hard, and I admire that. But I didn't know how to be there for you. I didn't know how to make you feel heard." Mia's heart ached as she watched her mother struggle to find the words. It wasn't just Amanda's hurtful words that had caused the rift. It was the years of silence, the constant tension, the unspoken expectations that had built up like a wall between them. Her mother had never known how to express her feelings, never known how to communicate in a way that made Mia feel understood. But now, in this moment, it felt like that wall was crumbling. "I don't need you to fix everything," Mia said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I just need you to see me. Really see me. Not as the daughter you want me to be, but as who I am." Her mother nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I see you, Mia. I see you. And I'm sorry for not saying it sooner." Mia wiped her tears away, feeling a mix of relief and sadness. She had wanted this moment for so long, but now that it was happening, she realized it wasn't just about getting an apology, it was about finally being understood. Her mother hadn't failed her. She had just been trying to protect her in the only way she knew how, even if it hurt more than it helped. But as Mia stood there, her heart still heavy with the weight of the past, she realized there was one more thing she needed to do. One more conversation she couldn't avoid. "Where's Amanda?" Mia asked quietly, her eyes hardening. Her mother hesitated for a moment, then spoke. "She's in her room. She's been waiting for you to come back, but—" "Mia, I don't know if you're ready for that conversation yet." Mia nodded, feeling the weight of the decision pressing on her shoulders. She wasn't sure if she was ready either. But she couldn't keep running away from this. Not anymore. "I'll talk to her," Mia said, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions swirling inside her. "It's time." The air was thick when Mia walked into Amanda's room. Her sister was sitting on the bed, eyes cast downward, avoiding her gaze. The tension between them was palpable, like a ticking time bomb, each moment more fragile than the last. Mia hesitated for a moment at the door before stepping inside, closing it softly behind her. Amanda didn't look up. "I don't even know where to start," Mia said, her voice quieter now, softer. Amanda's voice, when she finally spoke, was hoarse. "I didn't mean what I said, Mia. I was angry. And I shouldn't have taken it out on you." Mia's heart clenched. This was it, the moment she had been both dreading and yearning for. She could feel her emotions on the brink, like a dam about to break, but she held them in check. "You hurt me, Amanda," Mia said, her voice steady, but her chest felt like it was about to explode. "You've been hurting me for years. And I've let it slide because I wanted to keep the peace. But I'm done pretending that it doesn't matter." Amanda's eyes filled with tears, and she finally looked up at Mia. "I'm so sorry. I don't know why I do it. I don't know why I push you away when all I've ever wanted is to be close to you. But I'm scared, Mia. I'm scared that I'm not good enough. That you'll leave me behind, like I've left everyone else." The words hit Mia like a wave, washing away the anger she had been holding on to for so long. She realized in that moment that Amanda wasn't just lashing out at her, she was fighting her own fears, her own insecurities. Mia walked over to the bed and sat down next to her sister. "You're not going to lose me," she said softly. "We're both messed up. But we're family, Amanda. And that means something. It has to mean something." And in that moment, something shifted. The years of tension, the bitterness, the hurt, it didn't disappear. But for the first time in a long time, Mia felt like she could breathe again. Maybe, just maybe, there was a way forward. Not just for her and Amanda, but for her whole family. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Mia sat quietly in her childhood bedroom, the room still painted the same soft lavender it had been when she was a teenager. The faint scent of lavender-scented candles lingered in the air, a nostalgic reminder of nights spent studying or dreaming about the future. Now, as she looked around, it felt both familiar and foreign, like a chapter in her life that she had outgrown but never truly left behind. Her mind replayed the conversation with Amanda over and over again. The pain that had built up between them for years, the misunderstandings, the silent judgments, they were still there, lingering like shadows in the corners of the room. But something had shifted. The walls that had once divided them seemed to have cracked, and though Mia wasn't sure if they were completely gone, she felt a sense of hope she hadn't felt in a long time. It hadn't been an easy conversation. There had been tears, apologies, and a raw honesty that had been a long time coming. But it was a start. For the first time in years, Mia felt like she wasn't alone in her struggles, like her family was finally seeing her for who she truly was. Still, there was a part of her that was unsure. Had Amanda really changed? Could they ever fully repair the damage done? Mia didn't have all the answers, but she knew one thing for sure. The road ahead would require time, patience, and a willingness to face the difficult truths that had been avoided for far too long. A soft knock at the door broke her thoughts. Mia looked up to see her mother standing in the doorway, her expression uncertain but warm. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. Mia nodded, offering her mother a small smile. She'd been so focused on her own emotional journey that she hadn't even noticed how much her mother had been carrying on her own. Her mother had spent years trying to keep the peace, to protect Mia from the harsh realities of family dynamics. And yet, Mia now understood how much that silence had hurt them both. Her mother stepped inside and sat on the edge of the bed, her eyes meeting Mia's with a vulnerability that Mia had never seen before. "I don't know how to fix this, Mia," she said, her voice low. "I don't know how to make things right between us. But I'm willing to try. I want to be there for you, truly." Mia's heart swelled with emotion. Her mother's words, though simple, carried a weight of sincerity that Mia had longed for. "Mom," Mia whispered, "I don't need you to fix everything. I just need you to be here. To listen. To understand that I'm not the person you think I am. I'm not perfect, but I'm trying. And I need you to see that. Her mother nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. I'm sorry, Mia. I never meant to make you feel like you weren't enough. I just didn't know how to say it. But I see you now. And I'll do better. I promise. Mia felt a sense of relief wash over her, like a weight lifting off her chest. It wasn't perfect. The road to healing was far from smooth. But in that moment, she realized that they were both willing to move forward together, step by step. As her mother left the room, Mia's thoughts wandered back to the conversation with Amanda. They had cried, they had apologized, and they had finally spoken the truth. But even with the emotional release, Mia still couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. Maybe it was the unspoken tension that still lingered between them. Maybe it was the fact that the relationship had been fractured for so long that it couldn't simply be fixed overnight. Mia didn't know, but she did know one thing. The process of rebuilding her relationship with Amanda would take time. And for the first time, Mia was willing to give it that time. It was late when Mia finally left her room to join her family in the living room. Amanda was sitting on the couch, her eyes red from crying, but there was a sense of vulnerability in her posture that Mia had never seen before. She was no longer the confident, sometimes abrasive older sister. She was just Amanda, a person, struggling with her own insecurities and fears. Mia took a deep breath and walked over to the couch, sitting beside her sister. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice quieter now than it had been earlier in the night. Amanda nodded, her eyes not meeting Mia's. The silence between them was heavy, but it wasn't filled with anger. It was filled with uncertainty about where they stood, about what came next. But Mia knew that this was a crucial moment. "I want to understand you, Amanda," Mia said softly, her words deliberate. "I want to understand why you've been so harsh with me all these years. Why you felt like you had to push me away every time I got close." Amanda's eyes flickered to hers, and for a moment, Mia could see the walls begin to crack. "I don't know, Mia. I guess I've always been afraid. Afraid that you were better than me, that I wasn't good enough. I was so scared of losing you, of you leaving me behind, that I started pushing you away before you could ever do it to me." Mia felt a pang of sadness for her sister. "I never wanted to leave you behind, Amanda. I just wanted to be myself, and I didn't know how to make you see that. I didn't know how to make you understand that I needed you too." Amanda let out a shaky breath, finally meeting Mia's eyes. "I see that now. I see how much I hurt you, how much I pushed you away. I didn't mean to do that. I was just scared." Mia reached out, placing a hand on her sister's. "I understand, Amanda. I do. We've both been carrying around so much baggage for so long. But maybe it's time we let it go. Maybe it's time we let ourselves heal." Amanda's eyes filled with tears, and for the first time in years, Mia saw her sister truly vulnerable, truly human. The walls between them were still there, but they weren't as high as they used to be. Slowly, they were beginning to crumble. "I'm sorry," Amanda whispered, her voice raw with emotion. "I'm sorry for everything." Mia smiled softly, a tear slipping down her cheek. "It's okay, Amanda. It really is. We'll figure this out. Together." The room was quiet, but this time, it was a comfortable silence, a silence filled with understanding, with healing. For the first time in years, Mia felt like she was no longer just fighting her own battles. She had her family with her, even if they didn't have all the answers yet. And for Mia, that was enough. The morning after Mia and Amanda's heartfelt conversation, the house felt different. Quiet, yes, but not oppressive. It was a strange kind of stillness, as if the weight of years of unresolved tension had finally begun to lift, leaving space for something else to fill it. Mia woke up early, feeling the gentle sunlight streaming through the window of her old bedroom. She hadn't slept much, but for the first time in days, she didn't feel like the weight of the world was pressing down on her chest. It wasn't gone, not entirely, but the heaviness had been eased. She rolled out of bed and stood by the window, staring at the peaceful street outside. The neighbors' lawns were well kept, the trees swaying lightly in the breeze. It was a perfect, ordinary morning, but for Mia, it felt like the calm after a storm. The clarity that had come from her conversations with Amanda and her mother had brought peace, but there was still so much left unsaid. Mia knew it wasn't over. Not yet. There was so much work to do, so much healing to undertake. She dressed quickly in a pair of jeans and a sweatshirt, wanting something comfortable for the day ahead. Mia walked down the stairs, finding her mother in the kitchen, humming as she prepared breakfast. "Good morning," Mia said, her voice steady but soft, unsure of the next step. Her mother looked up with a gentle smile. "Morning, sweetheart. Sleep okay?" "Yeah," Mia replied, sitting down at the kitchen table. "Better than I thought I would. Thanks." Her mother placed a plate of scrambled eggs in front of Mia, still looking uncertain. She was trying, Mia could tell. Trying to reconnect, trying to build something stronger than what they had before. But Mia wasn't sure how to make that happen. The words were still difficult, the emotions still raw. They both knew that the silence between them had lasted too long, and that this morning wasn't the final answer. It was just the beginning. "I've been thinking a lot," Mia said, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup. "About everything. About us. And I don't know what the future holds, Mom, but I think we need to stop pretending that everything's fine when it's not." Her mother sat down across from her, her expression serious. "I agree," she said softly. "I know we've been avoiding hard conversations for years. I guess I didn't know how to face them, how to fix things. But I'm ready to start now. No more avoiding. We can't keep letting things fester." Mia nodded, feeling the weight of the conversation settle in her chest. "I'm not saying we need to fix everything overnight," she added, her voice quieter now. "But I think we need to learn how to talk to each other. To really listen, and not just hope that things will get better without saying what's really going on." Her mother reached across the table, taking Mia's hand in her own. "I want that too. I'm sorry, Mia. I've spent too long in my own head, too afraid to say anything. But I see now that it's hurt you, and I don't want to do that anymore." Mia squeezed her mother's hand, a tear slipping down her cheek before she could stop it. "It's not just your fault, Mom. It's mine too. I've been so focused on trying to make things work on my terms, I've ignored how much we needed to communicate. We both have to change." Her mother smiled softly, brushing the tear away. "We will, sweetheart. One step at a time." Later that afternoon, Mia sat on the front porch, her gaze drifting across the familiar landscape. She had been so focused on the big moments, the arguments, the confrontations, the emotional breakthroughs, that she had forgotten about the small victories. The quiet moments when things felt almost normal again. Mia realized that this was part of the process too. The healing wasn't just about resolving the big issues, it was about rebuilding trust, one moment at a time. Amanda came out to join her on the porch, looking hesitant. She had texted Mia earlier, asking if they could talk again. Mia had agreed, though she wasn't entirely sure what more there was to say. But now, as her sister approached, Mia felt a mixture of anticipation and uncertainty. Amanda sat beside her, her hands folded in her lap, looking at Mia with a quiet intensity. "I know we're not there yet," she began, her voice soft, but there was a hint of something raw in her tone. "I know I've hurt you, and I know I can't fix it all with a few words. But I need you to know that I'm going to try. I don't want to keep pushing you away. I don't want to be that person anymore." Mia turned to face her sister, her heart opening in a way it hadn't before. "I know, Amanda," she said gently. "I know. And I'm willing to try too. It's going to take time. A lot of time. But we can do this. We can find our way back to each other." Amanda nodded, her eyes brimming with emotion. "I don't know how to make it right, Mia. But I'll start by being honest with you. I don't want to pretend anymore. Not with you. Mia smiled, a soft but sincere smile. That's all I need, Amanda. Honest words. Honest actions. Amanda exhaled, visibly relieved. I can do that. I can start there. The two of them sat in silence for a moment, the wind gently rustling the leaves of the trees around them. It wasn't the kind of silence that felt uncomfortable or heavy. It was the kind of silence that felt like a pause, a breath, before the next chapter. Mia realized that there was no magic fix to what had happened. No grand gesture that would heal all the wounds. But what mattered was that they were trying. And sometimes, that was enough. For now, it was enough. As the sun began to set, casting a warm golden glow over the porch, Mia took a deep breath and let it out slowly, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. She had walked away from this family before, convinced that leaving was the only way to survive. But now, standing on the edge of this moment, she realized that there was still hope. The journey ahead was long, but for the first time, Mia believed they could make it together. The days following Mia's heartfelt conversations with her mother and Amanda were filled with moments of tentative peace. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. They still had a long road ahead of them, but the tension that had once defined the house seemed to have softened, if only just a little. Mia had grown accustomed to the quiet mornings with her mother, their awkward but warm exchanges as they navigated their new understanding. Amanda, too, had been trying, showing up in small ways, texting Mia to check in or sitting with her in the living room without any of the usual walls between them. But even as things began to feel like they might finally settle into something resembling normalcy, life had a way of throwing a curveball when you least expected it. And for Mia, that curveball came in the form of a phone call. It was a rainy Wednesday afternoon, and Mia was sitting in the kitchen, sipping coffee and reading through some emails when her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, expecting a message from Amanda, maybe asking how she was doing or her mom checking in about dinner. Instead, the caller ID displayed a number Mia didn't recognize. Her heart skipped a beat. She hesitated for a moment before answering. "Hello," she said, her voice cautious. "Mia, it's Emma," came the voice on the other end. Mia felt a cold wave wash over her. Emma, her best friend from college, the friend who had been there for her through thick and thin, the one person she thought she could always count on. Mia's stomach twisted. There was a heaviness in Emma's voice that instantly set her on edge. "Hey," Mia replied, trying to mask the anxiety creeping into her chest. "What's going on?" Emma's voice trembled slightly. "I need to talk to you. It's about Amanda." It's bad, Mia. Really bad." Mia's mind raced. "What do you mean? What happened to Amanda?" Please come to the hospital. I'll explain everything when you get here. Just hurry, okay?" Emma's voice cracked at the end, and Mia could hear the panic underneath her words. The world around Mia seemed to freeze for a moment. Her breath caught in her throat. Her hand gripped the phone so tightly her knuckles went white. Her mind was scrambling, but all she could focus on was the one thing Emma had said. Hospital. "Mia? Are you there?" "Yeah, I'm here," Mia whispered, her heart hammering in her chest. "I'm on my way. I'm coming." The call ended, but Mia was already moving. Her legs felt like lead as she rushed to grab her jacket, her brain still trying to catch up with the gravity of the situation. What could have happened to Amanda? What was so urgent that Emma couldn't even explain it over the phone? Mia's mind flooded with 100 scenarios, each worse than the last. Her stomach churned, and panic slowly began to creep into her thoughts. She tried to push it down, but it was impossible. She had no idea what she was walking into, and that uncertainty gnawed at her. She quickly called her mother, but the call went straight to voicemail. Her throat tightened as she left a hurried message. "Mom, something's happened with Amanda. I'm on my way to the hospital. I'll call you when I know more." By the time Mia reached the hospital, the rain had started to pour, drenching her hair and clothes. She barely registered the cold droplets running down her face as she hurried inside, her heart thudding louder with every step. The hospital lobby was bright and sterile, a place that felt too clinical for the kind of news she was about to hear. Emma was standing by the front desk, her face pale and tear-streaked, her eyes wide with fear. When she saw Mia, she rushed over, grabbing her by the arm. "Mia, thank God," Emma whispered, her voice breaking. "I didn't know who else to call. It's Amanda. She was in a car accident." Mia felt her stomach drop. The words didn't seem real, and for a moment, she was paralyzed. "A car accident? How bad is she?" "Is she?" "She's in surgery right now," Emma cut her off, her voice shaking. "They said she's critical. It's bad, Mia. Really bad. I don't know what's going to happen." Mia's world tilted on its axis. Her mind raced as she tried to make sense of what Emma was saying. Amanda, her sister, the person she had spent years trying to reconnect with, was fighting for her life. Everything Mia had taken for granted, the fragile peace they were starting to build, the quiet moments they were beginning to share, now seemed so insignificant compared to the sudden, overwhelming reality of the situation. "Where is she?" Mia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Emma took a shaky breath. "ICU. They're doing everything they can, but I just don't know, Mia. I don't know." Without waiting for another word, Mia took off down the hall, her feet moving faster than her mind could process. The sterile scent of the hospital, the distant beeping of machines, the hurried footsteps of doctors and nurses, everything felt surreal. She rounded the corner and found the ICU waiting area, where a few people were sitting, some with eyes glued to their phones, others lost in thought. But Mia couldn't focus on any of them. She needed to find Amanda. She spotted a nurse at the desk and rushed over, barely able to catch her breath. "I'm looking for my sister, Amanda. She's in critical condition, car accident." The nurse looked at Mia with pity in her eyes. "Are you family?" she asked, her tone professional but soft. "Yes," Mia gasped, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm her sister." The nurse nodded, glancing at the computer screen in front of her before pointing toward a hallway. "Room 312. You can see her, but only for a few minutes. The doctors are still working on her." Mia didn't wait for further explanation. She rushed toward the room, the floor seeming to give way beneath her feet with every step. Her chest tightened with every breath, her hands trembling as she reached the door. Inside, Amanda lay unconscious, hooked up to machines that beeped rhythmically, each sound a reminder that her sister was still fighting. The machines kept her alive, but Mia couldn't stop staring at her, so still, so vulnerable. Mia felt a lump form in her throat. She reached out and took Amanda's hand, her voice breaking as she whispered, "I'm here, Amanda. I'm here. You're going to be okay. I'm so sorry for everything. I should have been there more. I should have." She didn't finish the sentence. The words felt hollow. The only thing that mattered now was the fight Amanda was facing, and Mia had no idea what the outcome would be. Mia sat in the sterile ICU waiting room, her hands clutched tightly together in her lap. The minutes felt like hours, the seconds stretching out in an agonizingly slow march. The weight of the moment pressed on her chest, suffocating her with the knowledge that she couldn't change the past. She couldn't undo the things she had said, the ways she had distanced herself from Amanda, and now, with her sister lying unconscious and fighting for her life, Mia had no choice but to confront everything she had been avoiding. Her mind was a whirlwind, memories of the good times. Those rare moments when the two of them had laughed until they cried, when they'd been inseparable as kids, mixed with the painful times. The hurtful arguments, the unspoken words, the silence that had grown between them. Mia had always thought there would be time to fix things. Time to rebuild. Time to make up for the distance. But now she wondered if time was something they had left at all. She had spent so many years holding onto her own pride, her own hurt. But what did it matter now? What good was any of it if she couldn't make things right with Amanda? What good was holding onto the past when the person who meant everything to her was in that hospital bed, uncertain of what tomorrow would bring? Her thoughts were interrupted by the soft sound of footsteps approaching. Mia looked up to see Emma, her face drawn with exhaustion, her eyes red from crying. She walked over slowly, her gaze filled with concern, but also a quiet understanding. She didn't say anything at first. Instead, she sat down beside Mia and took her hand, the simple gesture speaking volumes. "Mia," Emma said softly after a long pause, "I know this is the hardest thing you've ever had to face. But you need to know that Amanda knows you love her." "She does." Mia shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. "I don't know, Emma. I don't know if she does. I've been so caught up in my own stuff, in the hurt and the anger. I haven't been there for her like I should have. And now, I might not get the chance to tell her." Emma squeezed her hand. "You're here now, Mia. That's all that matters. You're with her, and she needs you. Don't let your regrets keep you from being there in this moment." Mia swallowed hard, trying to steady her breath. She knew Emma was right. She couldn't change the past. But she could change what happened from this moment forward. She could make sure that Amanda knew how much she loved her, even if it was just in the quiet way she stayed by her side. The door to the ICU opened, and a doctor stepped out, looking tired but focused. Mia stood up immediately, her heart pounding in her chest. "Doctor," she asked, her voice shaky. "How is she? Is she going to be okay?" The doctor's expression was serious as he looked at her, and for a moment, Mia's heart dropped into her stomach. But then he spoke. "We've managed to stabilize her for now. The next 24 hours will be critical. She's still unconscious, but she's strong. We're doing everything we can, and we'll continue monitoring her closely. The good news is that her vital signs are improving, but there's still a long road ahead." Mia felt a wave of relief wash over her, but it was tempered with an overwhelming sense of fear. Amanda was alive. She had a chance. But the road to recovery would be long and uncertain. And in the meantime, Mia was left grappling with her own feelings of guilt and regret. "Can I see her?" Mia asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The doctor nodded. "Yes, but only for a few minutes. She's still sedated, so she won't be able to respond. But I'm sure she'll know you're here." Mia didn't need another invitation. She followed the doctor down the hall to Amanda's room, her heart racing with every step. When they entered the room, the sight of Amanda lying there pale, bruised, and hooked up to various machines nearly stopped Mia in her tracks. She had never seen her sister like this. It was a stark reminder of how fragile life truly was, how quickly everything could change. Mia approached the bedside slowly, her heart breaking at the sight of Amanda's stillness. She reached out, gently taking her sister's hand in hers. The warmth of Amanda's skin was a small comfort, but it wasn't enough to erase the ache in Mia's chest. She had so many things to say, so many apologies she needed to make, but the words stuck in her throat. "I'm sorry, Amanda," Mia whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm so sorry for everything. For all the time I spent pushing you away, for all the things I didn't say when I should have. I don't know how to fix this, but I promise you, I'm here now. I'm not going anywhere. Please, just wake up. Please." Tears spilled down Mia's face as she leaned closer, her forehead resting against her sister's. In that moment, all the anger, all the frustration, all the hurt that had built up over the years seemed insignificant compared to the love she felt for Amanda. She had always believed that family was everything, but it wasn't until now that Mia realized just how much she had taken her sister for granted. The minutes passed slowly, but to Mia, it felt like a lifetime. Finally, the nurse entered the room and gently reminded Mia that her time was up. Reluctantly, Mia kissed Amanda's hand, her heart heavy with the uncertainty of the future. As she stepped out of the room, Emma was waiting for her, her eyes full of concern. "How is she?" "She's alive," Mia said, her voice raw. "But I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if she's going to wake up." Emma pulled her into a hug, holding her tightly. "Whatever happens, Mia, you did the best you could. You're here, and you're showing up for her. That's all that matters now." Mia held onto Emma for a moment longer, the weight of the day pressing down on her. The uncertainty of what was to come loomed large, but one thing was clear: no matter the outcome, she would be there for Amanda. She would fight for their relationship, for their family, even if it took everything she had. The days that followed were a blur. Time seemed to bend in strange ways in the sterile hospital corridors. Mia had learned how to survive on little sleep, taking turns with Emma in the waiting area, checking in on Amanda whenever they could. Each moment that passed without a change in Amanda's condition felt like an eternity, a relentless reminder of how fragile life was. Mia's mind had been running constantly, replaying the moments leading up to the accident, over and over again. Why had she and Amanda gotten to this point? What had happened to their sisterly bond, the easy laughter they once shared? How could it have been so easy for Mia to pull away, to avoid the hard conversations? What was she so afraid of? In the quiet of the waiting room one night, Mia found herself staring at her phone, her fingers hovering over the screen. She had seen the missed calls, the ones from her mom, from friends who had heard about the accident. But she couldn't bring herself to call anyone. She wasn't ready. Not yet. When her phone rang again, her heart sank. The number was unfamiliar. She debated whether to answer. She had already been avoiding everyone, including her mom. It felt wrong, selfish even, to focus so intensely on Amanda's condition when there were people who cared about her. But at that moment, she felt utterly alone, even though Emma was sitting quietly beside her, wrapped in her own grief. Mia pressed the answer button. "Hello." The voice on the other end was steady, yet she could hear the faint tremor of worry. "Mia, it's your mom." Mia stiffened at the sound of her mother's voice, the sharp pang of guilt hitting her heart. "Hi, Mom," she managed to say, trying to keep her tone neutral. "You haven't answered my calls," her mom said softly. "I've been trying to reach you. How is she?" Mia swallowed hard, her throat tight with emotion. "She's stable for now. But it's still really touch and go, Mom. We don't know what's going to happen." There was a long pause on the other end of the line, before her mother spoke again, quieter this time. "I want to be there, Mia. I want to come see her, but I don't know if that's what you want. I understand if it's too much. But please, don't shut me out." Mia felt the lump in her throat grow. She closed her eyes, struggling to keep her emotions in check. She could hear the concern in her mother's voice, the same way she'd always heard it when she was younger, when Mia had done something wrong and her mom was trying to help her navigate through it. But now, there was something else, something between the lines, an undercurrent of sorrow, regret, maybe even frustration. "Mom," Mia said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry. I've been avoiding you. I didn't know how to fix things. I didn't know what to say." Her mother's voice softened. "You don't have to fix anything, Mia. Just come home. Come back to us. We're a family. We've been through enough, don't you think?" Mia's chest tightened, the weight of her own unresolved feelings pressing down on her. She had been avoiding her mother, Amanda, and even Emma in her own way. She had told herself that she needed space, time to figure things out, but now, in the face of the reality of Amanda's accident, she realized how wrong that had been. They didn't have forever to get it right. She could still make things better, if only she stopped running. "I'll come home," Mia finally said, the words tasting both heavy and liberating. "I'll be there tomorrow." The next day, Mia returned to the family house with a deep sense of apprehension. It wasn't just the physical distance between her and her family that she had been avoiding, it was the emotional distance. The silence that had once felt like protection now felt suffocating. As she stepped inside the house, the familiar smells of home hit her, the soft scent of vanilla and the hint of lavender her mom liked to keep in the air. But it wasn't the homecoming she had imagined. The place felt cold, alien, as though the walls themselves were bearing witness to all the tension that had accumulated over the years. Her mother was in the kitchen, sitting at the table with a cup of coffee, her gaze distant as she stared out the window. When she heard the door creak open, she looked up. Her face softened as soon as she saw Mia standing in the doorway. "Come sit with me, sweetie," her mom said gently, her voice warm but edged with something that Mia couldn't quite place. "I made your favorite tea." Mia nodded, feeling a mix of gratitude and apprehension. She moved toward the table, sitting across from her mom. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the soft hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of the clock on the wall. Finally, her mom broke the silence. "I don't know what's going on between you and Amanda, Mia, but whatever it is, we can work through it. You don't have to carry it all by yourself." Mia's heart tightened, her throat dry. "I've been so angry, Mom," she confessed. "I've been holding on to so much anger. I thought I could just walk away from it all. But now I'm scared. Scared that I waited too long to fix things. And I don't know how to make it right." Her mom reached across the table, placing her hand on Mia's. "It's not about being perfect. None of us are. But we have to try, Mia. We have to try to be there for each other, especially when it feels hardest." Mia closed her eyes, a tear slipping down her cheek. "I don't know if I'm strong enough to face all of this. To face Amanda, to face myself." Her mom squeezed her hand. "You are. You always have been. And you don't have to do it alone." Later that evening, Mia sat in the dimly lit living room, her mind racing as the familiar sounds of the house, the creak of the wooden floors, the ticking of the clock, seemed to amplify her feelings. Everything felt so different now, so fragile. The pain of the past couldn't be erased, but Mia realized that it didn't have to define her future. The love she had for Amanda was still there, buried under layers of hurt and fear, but it was there, and it was waiting to be rediscovered. And for the first time in a long while, Mia felt the faintest spark of hope flicker inside her, the idea that maybe, just maybe, they could heal. Together. Mia woke up early the next morning, the sun barely peeking through the curtains of the family home. It had been 3 days since she'd returned, and every day had felt like a step closer to breaking through the wall of distance she'd built around herself. It hadn't been easy. There had been moments where she wanted to retreat back into the silence, back into the comfort of her own self-imposed isolation. But every time, she fought it. She knew she couldn't keep running. She pulled herself out of bed, her body stiff from the long nights spent in waiting rooms, but her mind more settled than it had been in days. It was early, but she needed to see Amanda again. She needed to hold her hand, speak to her, even if she didn't know if her sister could hear her. As Mia stepped into the kitchen, her mother was already there, brewing a pot of coffee. The kitchen was bathed in soft morning light, the smell of fresh coffee mixing with the faint scent of pancakes, a memory from her childhood. Her mom smiled at her when she entered, but there was something different in the way she looked at Mia now, softer, almost proud, like she could see the changes happening in her daughter. "Morning, sweetheart," her mom said, setting a mug of coffee down in front of Mia. "How are you feeling today?" Mia took the mug, her fingers curling around it for warmth. She looked at her mom for a long moment before answering. "I'm trying, Mom. Trying to be better, to be here. I'm just not sure where to start." Her mother's smile softened. "The first step is the hardest, but you've already taken it. You came back. You're here for Amanda now." Mia nodded, looking down at her coffee. Her mind was still on Amanda, still on the fear of what might happen. She knew she couldn't control the outcome, but she couldn't bear the thought of losing her sister, of never having the chance to say everything she wished she had said. "I'm going to the hospital now," Mia said, standing up from the table. "I'll be back later. Maybe we can talk more then." Her mother nodded, her expression understanding, but filled with that same quiet concern that Mia had seen for so many years. "Take care of yourself too, Mia. Don't lose sight of that." Mia gave her a brief smile, and then she left, heading back to the hospital. The quiet of the early morning was a comfort to her, as if the world hadn't yet woken up and her thoughts could float freely for just a little while longer. When Mia arrived at the hospital, the air felt different. The tension in her chest had eased, though not entirely. She still didn't know what would happen with Amanda, but something had shifted inside her. The past few days, especially her conversation with her mom, had opened her eyes. She couldn't fix everything, but she could be there. She could be present. And that, she realized, was what mattered most. Mia walked into the ICU, where the machines softly beeped and the scent of antiseptic hung in the air. The same nurses who had been taking care of Amanda were still there, offering gentle smiles as they saw Mia approach. "You're here early today," one of the nurses said. "She's still stable. We're just keeping a close eye on her." Mia nodded, her heart lifting just a little at the nurse's words. She walked over to Amanda's bed, taking a deep breath before sitting down beside her. For a moment, all she could do was stare at her sister's pale face, the dark circles under her eyes from lack of sleep. As Mia reached out to take Amanda's hand, she felt a surge of emotion she couldn't explain. The last few days had been a blur of grief, regret, and fear, but now she was here and Amanda was alive. The distance between them seemed so small in comparison to the vast ocean of love Mia still had for her. And that love? It hadn't gone anywhere, no matter how much time they'd spent apart, no matter how much pain they had caused each other. "Hey, Amanda," Mia whispered, her voice trembling. "I know I don't say it enough, but I love you. I'm sorry for everything, for all the ways I've been distant. You mean the world to me. Please don't give up on us." She paused, feeling a lump form in her throat. "I need you to wake up, sis. We need to talk. I've been holding on to so much, and I don't want to do that anymore. I want to fix this. Please, just wake up." The words felt heavy in her mouth, but the act of saying them brought a kind of release, like a burden had been lifted from her chest. She wasn't sure if Amanda could hear her. She wasn't sure if Amanda would wake up at all. But Mia knew she couldn't hold on to the fear any longer. Just as she sat there, in the stillness of the room, a nurse came in to check on Amanda's vitals. Mia stood up to give her space, but her heart stopped when the nurse turned and said something she hadn't expected. "I think she's trying to wake up." Mia's eyes widened. "What? Are you sure?" The nurse smiled gently. "It's a good sign. She's been showing small signs of responsiveness. We'll know more soon." Mia's heart leaped in her chest. Was this the breakthrough they had been waiting for? Was Amanda going to be okay? The nurse left, and Mia returned to her sister's side, her hand still holding Amanda's. She watched for any small movements, any sign that Amanda might be waking up. The minutes stretched into what felt like hours, but Mia didn't mind. She was here. She was present. And that, she realized, was enough. Hours passed, and the waiting continued. Mia sat by Amanda's side, watching her closely. Then, finally, a faint movement. Amanda's eyelids fluttered. Mia gasped, leaning forward. Slowly, almost painfully, Amanda's eyes opened, her gaze unfocused at first. Then, she blinked several times, as if struggling to adjust to the light. Mia's voice cracked as she whispered, "Amanda." Her sister's lips parted, and for a moment, there was a hint of recognition, of something familiar in her eyes. Amanda's hand twitched in Mia's, and then she spoke in a voice that was barely a whisper. "Mia, I'm sorry. The words hit Mia like a wave of emotion. Amanda was awake. She was alive. And in this moment, everything felt possible again. "Don't apologize, Amanda," Mia said through her tears. "We have time to fix everything. We'll work through it. Together." Amanda's eyes closed again, but her hand tightened slightly around Mia's. That small gesture felt like a miracle. Mia's heart soared as she sat back in her chair, a tear slipping down her cheek. There was still a long road ahead, but for the first time in a long while, she believed in the possibility of healing. There was no guarantee of what the future would hold. But in that moment, as her sister lay there, Mia knew she would never take her family for granted again. The road to forgiveness and reconciliation wasn't easy, but it was worth it. And as Amanda rested, Mia made a silent promise to herself and to her sister that no matter what happened, she would be there. She would stay. She would fight. Together, they would find a way to heal. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?